Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Precious Mulepo, and today I am joined by the beautiful Gillian Kesha, a University of Cape Town CTA graduate. I received an email of someone asking, I think they were just got into CTA,
Yeah.
and they took the assumed knowledge part very seriously. So they were asking me if they should go, and this was, I think, during December break.
Yeah.
If they should go and restudy everything and revise everything. I mean, I see, this is now my thinking.
Yes.
I see the reason you want to do that, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's going to exhaust you
Yes.
if you take that approach, because CTA is such a long year.
I agree.
And it's fast paced. It's really quickly.
Yes.
It moves really quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I replied saying, don't do that, rest.
I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah, because
agree.
I mean, if you passed your degree, then you did something right.
Yes.
To get into, and if you got into CTA as well, you did something right.
Yes,
so
100%.
don't like panic and do stupid things now.
Yeah, no. You know more than you think you do. So
Big
I
time.
agree with that approach. You don't want to burn out before you start. If you want,
and burnout is a real thing.
it really is. It really is. So yeah, I fully agree. I don't think there's any benefit in going back and trying to revise anything. If anything, do like a practice question or two. Don't go back, start making notes and like reconciling. No, I don't think that's going to serve you much purpose at all.
Yeah. How did you divide like your studying? Okay, so you have 4 modules. How did you divide that? I want to know, like, on a weekly basis, like when you have lectures, as well as during study week. So did you guys actually have a study break?
Yeah, we did. We would have that study week or
Just
whatever.
1 week?
It depends. I think with the mid-year exams, it was probably like maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks. I can't exactly recall.
Okay,
But there
yeah.
was always some type of break.
All right, I'm just
in
trying to
between.
gauge like how much time you had.
Maybe 2 weeks.
2
I would
weeks.
say about 2 weeks.
Okay, it was the same for us.
Yeah.
Somewhere
so
there. Yeah.
roughly somewhere there. So yeah, which is not a lot of time.
It isn't. It isn't.
It's not
I think
a lot
it's
of time.
actually with us in the beginning of the year, I think we only get 1 week, and then towards the end, like as the workload piles up, then you
a
get
bit
2
more.
weeks. Yeah, so it's not a lot of time.
Yes, no, I agree. But so essentially in terms of dividing or how I studied, again, this is where knowing where my weak points came in handy. So with the monitoring progress. So the first thing I would do is, okay, in which courses do I really need to sort of pick up my marks, like, get an improvement point to the next test so that I know I qualify for the exam or whatever, or pass the course. So I'll start with that. So if I knew like auditing was where I was struggling and so forth, and I needed to push more attention to it, naturally I would, right? So in a week, let's say I'm planning a course per day or something like that. What I'll then do is with auditing, I'll give it like a day and a half. Right,
Okay.
a bit more time. And then how I started, like in terms of picking out what to reconcile first. Again, it came back to what were my assessments of my weak areas from my tests, from my tutorials, with the progress that I was doing, with the monitoring of progress that I was doing. So if I knew that this was a subject topic I didn't do so well in the test 2, so I definitely need to push more time towards it because clearly there was a gap in my knowledge there or something I didn't fully understand, then that's where I'd start. So the first day I'm doing auditing, I'm focusing on these 2 or 3 topics that I've picked out as my weak points. So I'll do it with a practice question, or I think with auditing it was more theoretical, so I might go back to the theoretics of it. So say half of the day I'm writing down the theoretical notes around it, and then the second half I do like a practice question, and then that's what I'm doing for auditing. So even with all the other courses, I did the same thing. The first couple of days of that study break, I'm focusing on the topics that I have a bit of a gap in, and each day is dedicated to that, and then the additional time to obviously auditing. So then the following day or after a day, I go back, I do auditing another half day before switching to the other course for just a day where I'm still okay. So it was honestly just a thing of shifting more time to those courses based on my assessment. And even within those study weeks, depending on how it's going. So I was able to push through, and essentially within a day, I was able to sort of fill in the gaps for whatever topics I was weak in auditing. Then great, then I would reshuffle that additional half a day I had put put towards auditing for accounting or, or management or finance rather, or tax. It just depended. But at least I had a starting point to know that this is where I've been weak in the courses because I've been monitoring it. So I'm starting with these, and my plan is to give more time to these because that's where I'm struggling a bit, and that's where I really need to, pull up my socks and
So you
get
didn't
those
have
marks.
a generic approach at all?
No, I don't think generic really,
Sure,
really,
you really
works.
went to the T. That's great.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't. It was very important that I stayed on
Yes.
top of things because, like I said, with CTA and PTA, there's so many moving parts. You need to know where you are specifically going wrong. Just taking on a
Yes.
generic plan that's telling you dedicate a day to each doesn't really make sense, because if I know I'm good with tax, I'm understanding everything, I only need to practice a question or two and I'm ready for the exam, why would I waste an entire day?
I think also, I mean, first of all, some of us realized late.
Yeah.
Hence we repeated CTA.
Yeah.
But I think we fall into the trap of doing things we're good at, and where there's reward,
Yeah,
and like
'cause
that
it gives
hit of
you comfort.
dopamine. Exactly. So, oh no, I'm getting 90% for this question or this type of question, and you want to keep doing it because you want to keep feeling like you're doing the right thing.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
So you didn't even waste your time on the things you knew.
No, because again, it was that false sense of comfort, right?
Exactly.
So I was like, as much as I also didn't want to do it, I was like, no, I don't want to sit here and do these, especially with auditing. Jesus, I found so many of the topics boring. Like, it was terrible, but I was like, I need to, give the time to it. And some of the courses are a bit weird to study for. At least that's how I found auditing. It was very weird because to an extent, it's also a little bit subjective, right?
It is.
It's not really straightforward answers. Like with your accounting or with your management accounting or your finance or the cost reporting, it's numbers. It's, there is a correct answer.
Yes.
Whereas with auditing, it's a bit more subjective. You need to apply your mind a bit more.
You're right.
So it's a bit draining to study it, and you don't get that dopamine hit from like, I did so well.
Yes.
With answering this because it's not that cutthroat. But I was like, that's where I need to push the time. In order to be successful, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. Things that are uncomfortable or things that literally bore you, make your eyes roll, But that's how you become successful, because just focusing on what you're good at is not really going to help you, because you still have to write that course you're not really fond of. You also still have to pass it, because if you don't, you repeat the entire year.
I remember actually one day at the office, there was someone else from another firm that was telling me, I mean, he was much more further in his partner. And he was like, no, you know what? You're going to have to make a sacrifice, whether it's now or whether it's later. So you can enjoy now, but you're going to have to work hard later. Or you work hard now and then you'll enjoy later. I think you can apply that everywhere.
Yes, that's very true.
In CTA.
No, absolutely. I think the mindset starts then. You're going to have to sacrifice now, do some things you don't like. But like you said, then you reap the rewards, because otherwise, if you don't, you're going to continue to suffer, now, or enjoy for the time being. But I mean, you won't enjoy much when you now have to redo the course. And so rather just make the sacrifice now whilst you have the time. Push in that time to do those courses you don't really like, because you still need them at the end of the day, and it's not going to miraculously happen that you pass them. Unfortunately,
I think you just need to come to terms with the fact that, listen,
absolutely,
I'm here to work.
Yes,
and
it's just a year, and it's a year that goes by so fast as well. So before you know it, it's the end of the year. And what is a year? I mean, time goes by so fast. So making that sacrifice now for a year is nothing.
And then I had a comment under one of my videos where a viewer actually asked, how many hours should I be putting in on a daily? I personally, not a fan of that question. I've said in one of my videos why, because I feel like it should be about the quality of your studying and not the quantity.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm curious to know what you think.
No, I agree. Definitely the quality, not quantity, especially in CTA, because you don't have enough time to do mounds of practice questions and anyway. So hence the quality is important. Hence, doing a practice question on a topic you're really struggling with is more beneficial than you doing 5 practice questions on a subject topic you really enjoy, because you really didn't gain anything from that, right? So I don't think there's a specified amount of time. Yes, I said my daily schedule, I'll spend about 2 to 3 hours reconciling things, but I also did say if there was a day where I just wasn't feeling up to it, or I was
Yes.
fine, during that week. I didn't really feel like I had hectic gaps in my knowledge. Whatever, I was happy to reconcile those and be like, okay, I'll look at these when exam season comes. That's when I'll do final revision of them. I did that.
Yeah.
I didn't waste my time or spend the 2 to 3 hours doing that. I just took the break for the day. So it's definitely
Yeah.
quality. And also, if you, like I said, if you know where you're at with your courses, how you're doing, then you don't need to push unnecessary extra hours. Like go to the library with all your course mates, because everyone goes to the library to push hours. But if you don't have a purpose to do that and it's not going to serve you anything, then why are you doing it?
And it's easy to just follow the crowd.
No,
hey?
it
Like
is.
you feel
It
like,
is.
no, man, everyone is
Everyone
pushing.
else is
What am I doing?
yeah, because I would get those types of comments. For me in university, I was sort of alone now when it came to my academic journey. Yes, I had a lot of friends following the same thing, and a lot of them would go study in the library together, plan out things together, say, oh, we're going to practice this, we're going to practice that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to have people to assist you in your journey and all of that. But also you need to individualize how you study.
So you didn't have a study group?
No.
Throughout the year?
No, never.
Interesting.
I never ever had a study group
You
at
see,
all.
me on the other hand, I had a study group in my second attempt, and I
Okay.
felt it so bin. I felt like I could bounce my ideas off somebody.
All right.
We could, if you did really well in a question and I
Yes.
didn't, you would kind of speak
Yes,
your
you
thought
could
process
help each other
to me.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. But I mean, different strokes for different folks.
No, 100%. I think study groups are great for the exact reason you just gave me now. So I did have friends where I knew they were stronger in certain topics, and I would go to them and we, speak and discuss. But it wasn't so much to where I actually have a study group and we like plan out study sessions together or study together all the time. It was never really to that extent, but I definitely
Yes.
did have people that I'd bounce things off of and would assist each other in the topics where one is stronger versus the other. I think that is very important. Have those people around you, because you might not always have access to a lecturer or a tutor for that specified time that you need for someone to actually really help you out with something. So it's definitely beneficial. What I just meant is, if you are in a study group, make sure that even in that, you're catering for your own needs. So
Yeah.
don't make it so generic to where you guys say, okay, this is what we're going to focus on in the study session. We studying auditing for this week or whatever. But if you're doing well in auditing and you're fine, don't dedicate the entire week to it. Just say, no, it's fine. I think we'll all study in the library together, but I would rather focus on this because I'm struggling in this a bit. And I know you're a bit stronger, so could you help me out with this and that? But I will be there as well to also assist you guys with auditing if you're struggling on some topics, because I think I'm good on these. Do that. So what I'm saying is also individualize even in that group and study setting, feed off each other. Don't just make it generic to where you guys are sort of just doing the same thing all the time. But if your weak areas are different to the rest of the group, then you're not doing yourself any favors by just following what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. Then I want us to jump into the specifics. Maybe let's start with auditing. How did you study auditing? What was your approach there?
Okay, so I think, like I said earlier, auditing, because it was a bit more subjective, and I think you couldn't really do well in auditing if you didn't understand more of the theoreticals behind things like your analytical procedures or whatever. If you didn't really understand what they were trying to address or when really you would apply these, you wouldn't do so well with auditing. So for me, I'd make sure that I'd understand, what is this topic we're looking at? When does it apply? And so forth. And what are we trying to achieve with it? Then do like a question on it to see how well I'm applying the concepts and all of that to actual scenarios, right?
And then how long would it take you to get comfortable with the technical?
Geez, I think it depends on the different topic. I don't think I can put a time to it, because some took longer than others. It just depended on maybe the magnitude of the topic in itself, how big of a topic it was, and generally how often it shows up. Because you can always really tell when some topics are more or count for more than others. But I don't think I would ever have to spend like an entire day to understand one concept. No, I think after you do the theoreticals and the practice question, it's fine. So maybe like 4 hours or so to really reconcile a topic, fully to where I would say, okay, I'm prepared to answer for it in an exam. Probably that amount of time. But again, it differed. Some topics were smaller, so it wouldn't take as much time, maybe 2 hours, maybe an hour, whatever.
Okay.
But generally there. So that's what I did with auditing. focused a bit more on the theoreticals first before attempting any questions.
Okay.
Whereas if I were to look at my management, accounting or finance, and
Before we move on to management
sure.
accounting, so what about like your corporate governance sections, your Companies Act? How would you approach those?
Okay, so that's actually linked to auditing, at least for us. It
Yes,
fell into
us too. Yes.
into the auditing realm. So again, with those things, you sort of need to understand what it's saying to you, like with the Companies Act. You need to understand that thing when they talk about directors and liability and when does it apply, whatever. So I'll go back really to, I guess it does come with practice questions, but again, I needed to understand the theoreticals of it. So I'll go back, really make sure I'm understanding what this section, whatever, is saying to me. When does it apply? When a director does this, does that. Okay, cool. I understand the requirements when this applies. And I'm understanding any exceptions to that criteria. Then do the question and see, okay, am I fully understanding it? So it was honestly the same approach, just understanding what the legislative law is saying or the sections for things are saying first before actually applying it, because I can't apply something I don't understand.
Yeah, so you wouldn't go into memorizing it. It was more like, okay, if I understand, I can speak on it in the exam.
Yes,
Okay.
because I mean, the thing about auditing as well is it's not always, the way they test it is not always so clear cut to where if you memorize something, then you're good. No, you always have to apply your own mind to it outside of just the whatever the legislation is saying to you or the section is saying to you. So you can memorize something, great. But if you cannot apply your mind to a scenario given to you, you might not even know that you're actually supposed to apply that to the question.
And also in CTA, application is huge.
Yes, it is.
Like you can know your whole textbook off by heart and you can still fail.
Exactly.
So you really need to like apply it
exactly
the situation and the scenario that you're given.
You do. So I think that's why I took that approach. It was never about memorizing for me. No. It was more, I need to make sure I can apply this and apply my own mind on top of what is being said to me in the scenario. So that's what I would always do, and then I do that little practice question which helped me with the application of things, so that in any scenario I could sort of pick up on those things, because auditing also likes to do a thing where one scenario has multitudes of things that apply to it. So if all you did was memorize sections and then it's not going to serve you much because you didn't even know how to apply those things. Or you might apply one and completely miss that multiple things applied to the same, sort of scenario. It's very rare that you have only one section or one legislative law applying to a scenario.
Yes. Yeah. And then accounting. How did you study that?
Okay.
A lot of people are very uncomfortable with accounting. I don't know how the stats were at UCT, but at UJ, the worst performing modules were auditing and accounting.
Yeah, I think it was consistent as well for UCT.
Is it? Okay.
Very consistent. I think once you hit that group reporting and all of that, that's where it sort of gets a bit uncomfortable. For me, with those subject topics, what I did was more practice than theoretical, which actually, speaking to other peers, they did the inverse. They would first go and understand group accounting, the different subsidiaries, the percentages and what, and how to do the pro formas and all of that. I didn't really spend too much time understanding the theoreticals. I went into practicing it because every scenario they give you is always going to be different, right?
Okay.
You're never going to have the same type of scenario, same type of company structure and whatever that they try and give you. So for me, with financial accounting and even with management accounting or finance, my approach was always practice a question first before going back to any theoretical stuff, because that way I could gauge how comfortable I am with certain things. Because the thing is, these topics are so big. If you think about group accounting, it's massive. There's so many things you need to factor in. So by me starting with practicing, it then allowed me to sort of really identify the little things within that big concept that I didn't understand. Because you cannot tackle it as just one big topic. You sort of have to break it down into the little things that make up group accounting. So by practicing a question first, I was able to see, where am I struggling? Am I struggling with when it comes to the performers and the attributing of things between the subsidiaries? Am I struggling with really identifying the subsidiaries within the group, because that's the starting step. Am I struggling with identifying when it's a subsidiary versus a joint venture versus what's that other one? Before you get to the subsidiary level.
Joint venture, what's that
something,
one?
associate.
Yes.
Yeah. So practice and question helped me really see what am I struggling with. Is it that identifying when I have a subsidiary versus a joint versus an associate, right? Is it with applying then the different rules to that consolidated accounting to the different entities, a subsidiary versus a joint venture versus this, that, and the other? Or is it actually the mathematics of it? So coming up with the pro forma journals, apportioning this versus that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of elements that I
Exactly. There are a lot of elements to it. So for me, that's how I approached it, because then it helped me really pick out what it is I was struggling with. Then I can go back and be like, okay, let me really strengthen my ability to do the mathematics and, curate the pro forma journals. Or really go back and understand, when is something a joint venture versus an associate versus a subsidiary? You know, let me go back and understand the theoretical of that. That's how I tackled those courses, because even the theoretics of it is too much as well. So if I started with the theoretics, I'll probably be revising over a day. Just the theoretics.
I'm actually thinking now, while you're speaking, where my problem areas of accounting were. I think another challenge was managing in the exam, because it was a lot of time pressure. And the questions just seemed very complex.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And deferred tax.
Yes.
So that's maybe the next question. So in the exam, how did you manage to stay cool? Because I feel like we panic a lot because there's a lot going on and there's time pressure.
Yes. No, that's valid. So what was key for me, especially when I was studying these, was to time myself. I know people say it and we're like, yeah, you should. And then we don't really apply it. But it's very, very, very important. Essentially, create that exam environment when you're just by yourself, because you get yourself comfortable with that. Remember I said a performing habit. So it's not a different environment. You know your time, whatever. And then it also helps you know how long it takes me to answer these types of questions. So if you're in an exam and you're seeing that, okay, I'm spending more time than I usually do in my own practice sessions on these, maybe just put it aside for a bit, try something else. And that will actually shift your mindset, because if you move to something else, it goes well. It gives you that dopamine hit, is a level of confidence there, you can go back. Exactly. So always time yourself when you're now doing those practice questions, especially for exams, and set up that environment for yourself so that time is not a factor for you in the exam. Because you start to panic when it is, when you know, I've not done this under time pressure, I've not practiced it, and you see the clock is ticking away. But if you've practiced already with time, you already are comfortable with that, because even when you were attempting and you saw this is taking a bit longer, you then thought to yourself in that moment, okay, what should I do? How do I reshuffle my time?
Again.
Exactly. And that will help you stay calm and collected. So essentially eliminate all the factors you can. Right? You can eliminate the time factor thing by being self-aware, having timed yourself as you're practicing, whatever. Even when you're practicing, if you reach your time limit, move on to the next question.
Yes.
Already have that
because it's very difficult to do it for the first time in the exam.
Yes, it is. The first time you want to do it is not in the exam, right? So do it yourself as you're practicing. And you'll see that, okay, it's actually fine. You do that and you see you might have extra time left in your practice session. You go back and you wrap up things and you're like, okay, cool. I can manage my time well, and this is how I'm going to approach it. So eliminate all those factors before you get there, so you're not unnecessarily anxious and all of that.
Great advice. Love it. Now deferred tax.
Oh, jeez.
How did you study? How did you
I think with deferred tax, it's still one of those things where even today, qualified and all, if you were to ask me a deferred tax question, I need 2 business days to come back to you. But again, the way I practiced it, honestly, you know what? I think that was probably the only one within the whole realm of financial accounting where I probably spent more time understanding the theoreticals of it. Like, what is actually going on?
You really do need to.
What is going on? What is the taxable versus the... I needed to fully understand. So definitely spent a lot more time on the theoreticals, fully understanding what they're saying to me and all of that, and then doing the practice questions. But deferred tax is one of those things where, geez, it can be asked in so many different ways as well. So practice questions are good to solidify the theoretical of it, but I wouldn't have started only with practice questions because, like I said, it can be asked in many different ways, and it can be applied to so many different ways. So I think for that one, understand the theoretics, what this means, how to get to your
Totally.
Yeah, how to get to the amounts and all of that
theoretics,
is
the
very
emphasis
important
is
for
on
deferred
that.
text. Exactly. And then you can do a few practice questions just to solidify that, you know, to help your brain store that knowledge away. Yeah.
And then while we're on the tax, how did you approach taxation?
So tax for me was a very theoretical subject topic. So I always started with the theoretics. I needed to understand what the legislation is saying because there's no other way with tax. And the thing about tax is you can understand that, okay, this is how the legislation starts, but there's so many exceptions, you know? So apply this if this applies, but also if that applies, apply this. And so with tax, you really needed to understand the principles, what the legislation is saying. So I always started with the theoretics and extensive notes, not just, you know, paper point.
Big time.
It had to be extensive. I even had flowcharts. So that's what I started doing for it. So I'll say section 12C, whatever. And then I have a flowchart from the beginning. You know, the first time it says this is what applies. And then the exceptions. But if there's an exception, this then applies. But, you know, so that helped me visualize it. Remember, I've already said I'm a visual person. So,
and it's important, nice that you actually bring that up, to understand what kind of person you are. Like, how do you take information? Are you a visual person? Do you like hearing it, watching videos, or whatever the case is? I think it's important because you don't waste time on trying to go through all the methods, you know what I mean, before you actually understand what you need to understand.
Definitely. So yeah, that's what I did for tax. Extensive notes, but visualizing it so that I'm not just looking at words, because it will become too much if you're just looking at words. So doing the visual flowcharts helped me see it more clearly and see a picture for each section I was tackling. So that was really, really key for me with tax. I think tax was one of my strongest courses, although oddly enough, it was the course I supped in my PGD.
Interesting.
I know. But that's because I understood I was strong at it. I focused less time on it. I pushed less time to it because I knew that.
Was that your strategy?
Yes.
Okay.
After I saw that, you know what, I really need to push more time to auditing and like financial reporting, especially when group accounting started coming in. I was like, okay, so tax is going to have to be sacrificed here. But I know with tax, once I make those notes and the flow charts of the legislation, I'm good. And I can go into the exam having done one practice question or none at all if it's a smaller little section. So I was like, I know I do not want to be in a position where I'm supping these other bigger courses that I'm struggling with. So I can put tax on the back burner for a bit because it comes more naturally to me. So to the point where when we wrote our final exams, immediately I already knew that I had done enough to sub tax. So I started studying for it even before results came out because I was that self-aware of how I was doing. So when I got back home, I told my mom, hey, I think I'm going to have to sub tax. I know it, you know.
So you already started
studying? I already started studying. The results came back. Indeed, I had to sub tax, and I did. And in the supplementary, I aced it, you know, because of COVID, we could get back our scripts. And I actually saw I'd aced that exam. So that's how self-aware I was, and that's how closely I was monitoring my progress for each course to know that I could sacrifice this one because I do well at it. But I knew I could do enough to get the sub or even just pass it and I would be sorted. But the other ones I knew I could not, you know, sacrifice time to them. Exactly.
Especially because subs are much harder.
Yes, they are. And especially if it's for a course you've been struggling with the whole year. Terrible.
Yes. And then quickly, how did you study for, what's the last one? Financial management.
So that's finance, right?
Did we touch on finance?
Yeah, so I think I grouped it with financial reporting in terms of it was usually a practice-based approach, you know, because it was a lot of numbers as well. I mean, there was then, I think in CTA, the qualitative aspects of it became so much more important. That's the difference with undergrad. Because in undergrad, you're doing the numbers of the DCFs and the cost reporting and all of that. But then in CTA, you needed to understand the qualitatives because, you know, it's that business person approach of how to be cost-effective and efficient with your business. So that was probably the stepping stone for me with management accounting. So when it came to CTA, over and above like the practice questions, I then started to think more of the qualitative. So with my numbers, what are my numbers saying to me? You know, what would I do as a business person to be more cost effective? Where are the key areas in my business is costing and all of that? Because really that's what management accounting is trying to teach you. So in my attempts now, with every attempt, I would always try and include a qualitative aspect, even if there wasn't any in the question. Really try and understand what did I just do.
You are giving golden advice here.
So I think that was very, very important because that's the biggest change I noticed with
and actually still on that quantitative, qualitative.
Yes.
Is it the qualitative? Which one is the one with the
words?
consideration? Qualitative.
The qualitative, yes.
That actually could come in handy even when you get to your board exams.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because that's what board
APC,
exams are.
it's filled
With the
that.
qualitative, yes. Because now you need, as an auditor, you need to be able to look at numbers and see
What
where's
exactly
the
does this
risk,
mean?
what is
Yes.
happening here. So it's very, very important. And I think it'll even help you for your other courses in your CTA, like with your auditing. It will definitely help you there because because auditing is more qualitative as well. So if you're able to really qualitatively see where issues are lying, even in the numbers, just by looking at the numbers or patterns and that type of thing, you're set, like you said, for CTA and even for your board exams. So and even for your articles, you're set.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, it's a great technique to sort of get on your skill set.
And then lastly, advice to anybody in the CTA year.
Oh gosh. Okay. I think overall, people always tell you CTA is difficult, CTA, PGTA, whatever, is a very difficult and trying and testing year. And, many have tried and failed it. And that's the year that really gets a lot of people, which is true. I've seen it in my own journey. A lot of people fell off in that year.
Yeah.
What I'll say is, it is true. It is a challenging year, but go into it with an open mind. Do not go into it already anxious and worried about how you're going to do because of all these things you've heard about it. Focus on you. You know where your strengths are, where your weaknesses lie. Do not lose sight of that. Have a study plan that is specific to you. Have people you can obviously have assist you where you have your weaknesses and whatever. It motivates you a bit to have those type of people in your corner. But tailor your study plan for yourself and then put in that effort every single day or every other day.
Yeah.
That will help you towards the end so that you're not overwhelmed having to reconcile everything, not knowing where to start and so forth. Because I think that's the biggest thing with CTA. If you don't stay on top of things, you're not organized and, you're not understanding where your weaknesses lie because then you're just shooting in the blank in terms of what I'm studying and so forth. You won't have enough time to revise everything and reconsolidate everything. So stay on top of it, really monitor your progress. It goes by fast, but like I said, that little effort every day counts for so much. So do not take that lightly at all. And you'll be fine. Honestly, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gillian.
Thank
You've
you.
given gems of advice.
Thank you.
I
This was
love your
lovely.
focus on your problem areas. I think that solves a lot of problems that we have in CTA. The biggest one being we don't have time.
Yes.
Or you don't have time.
You don't, yeah. But it's possible. That's the key thing. It's possible. Many have done it before and been successful. And I have no doubt that many others will be. So
yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You were brilliant. I made the right UCT graduate choice.
Oh man, I'm honored.
Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching this episode, this video. Give Gillian a follow. Maybe share your social media.
Yes. So on Instagram, it's Gillian_Kesha. And then also on TikTok, it's Gillian Kesha. I've recently started like a career and lifestyle type of TikTok. So yeah, content will be going up on that one. And my secondary TikTok page is just fun adventures showing you the other side of life. Yes. Because it's a balance. But yeah, if you just type in Gillian Kesha on most of the social media accounts, you'll probably find me.
Thank you so much. Go and follow her, please. But thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you again, Gillian.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Till the next video. Bye.